ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Thy Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we'll start with the pranam mantras here. Hare Krishna everybody and welcome. And thank you for joining the class. And Hare Krishna to the viewers who are online. So we'll start with the group pranam. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapte Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Venugopal Prabhu, can you give me the... Okay, so today we're going to talk about basically about the Brahmana, qualities of a Brahmana. And so I'll be drawing upon from Bhagavad Gita mostly, and then stories coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam there. So I'll talk about Vamana the Brahmana and most of the things related with Brahmana. And in the end, we'll have some Q&As and reflection time as well. So question to you all is, who is Vamana? Who was Vamana? Anybody wants to make a guess? Please pick up the phone, pick up the microphone and answer. Manjari Gopika is smiling. She knows the answer. Go ahead.
Incarnation of Krishna, and then he came for Bali Maharaj's pastime.
Oh, very nice. So, is that working? Okay.
Yeah.
Just hold it a little bit closer. Yeah.
So he was incarnation of Krishna, and he came for the Bali Maharaj's pastime.
Pastimes. Yes, very good. So he was the son of Aditi and Kashyap Muni. So Kashyap is the Prajapati, progenitor. And what did he do? So he came for the pastimes of Bali Maharaj, you said that. And it's a very beautiful song that tells us what he did. So we can all sing that together. Okay. Chalayasi vikramane balimadbhuta vamana padhanakani rajanita janapavana Keshavadhrita Vaman Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. So basically what he did was that he did some chal. He committed some deceit. And he came as a very wonderful Vaman, which is a dwarf. So Vaman means a dwarf. So he came as a dwarf. And basically, we'll go a little bit more into his pastimes, but this particular verse says that through the nails on his foot, padhanaka, So what he did was he tore through the covering that covers the universe, and from that the water of the causal ocean started pouring into the universe in the form of a river. What is that river called? Ganges, yeah? And that is the Ganges that is used to purify us human beings who are inside the universe. So Keshav, which is Supreme Lord Krishna, as you mentioned, he took the roop of a Vamana. So the translation: O Keshav, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who has assumed the form of a wonderful dwarf Brahmana, all glories to you. With your massive steps, you deceive King Bali, and with the Ganges water emanating from the nails of your lotus feet, you deliver all living beings in this world. Okay. So let's just try to trace back a little bit of the history on, why he came and what was the prevalent mood at that time, what was the reason for him, why did he have to deceive and things like that. Okay. So we'll start from, the churning of the milk ocean. There's a lot that happens before that as well, but particularly pertaining to Vamana, we can start from here. And so we all know that there's a age-old and eternal fight between good and bad, and basically between the asuras and the suras, which is the demigods and the demons. So they always keep on fighting. The only time they kind of sort of came together and they had an ulterior motive in doing that was when they came to churn the ocean of milk. And the reason they were churning, the prime reason for that they both wanted to get nectar. And the idea was that they will gain immortality by drinking the nectar from that. So they did cooperate, they did churn the nectar, but the only thing is that when the nectar came, of course, when things started coming out of the churning of the ocean, they started taking turns, like you take this, and you take that, and you take this, and you take that. But when the nectar came out, both of them wanted the nectar. So obviously, Krishna did not want the atheist or the demons to get the nectar. So Krishna always favors the demigods because they are devotees of Krishna. So Krishna comes in the form of a beautiful lady, and that's another incarnation of Krishna. He comes as the Mohini Murti. And so he comes there, and of course the demons get attracted to the female form, and she kind of controls them and says, okay, you sit down here and give me the pot, and I will distribute. And while distributing, she distributed the nectar to the demigods and didn't give any to the atheists or the demons. So the demons pretty much didn't like that. They were very angry with that. And so because of that, they were boiling with anger, so they attacked the demigods again. And of course, the demigods had drunk nectar, so they were very powerful because of that. And so they defeated the demons. So they were very badly defeated, actually. Their leader, Maharaj Bali, was killed in that battle. And then, as all good souls, Narad Muni, who's there, he's a celestial traveler. He goes from place to place, he's watching and he's observing everything. So he kind of took pity on the situation that all the demons are being killed mercilessly by Indra, who is the king of the demigods. And so he said that, he asked the demigods, okay, now enough, now stop killing them, like that. And then on the side of the demons, they had a spiritual master. His name was Shukracharya. And he's also a Brahmana. So we see that there's a lot of mention of the word Brahmana coming in these narrations. Vaman comes in the form of a Brahmana. Then Narad Muni is another Brahmana. Shukracharya is also called a Brahmana. So he had the mystic powers that he could revive people who were dead. So he revived the demons who were dead. And then he also revived, of course, Maharaj Bali. So he brings him back to life. And then, of course, Bali Maharaj is very happy and he's very grateful with this. So he starts serving Shukracharya, who's a Brahmin. So, and then what happens is that when you serve anybody, they become very pleased with you. So same thing happened with Shukracharya. So then he said, okay, why don't you perform a yajna, a sacrifice? And in that sacrifice, you'll be able to, conquer the world. So the name of the sacrifice itself is Vishwajit Yajna. Vishwa means the world and Jit means to conquer. So let's do the sacrifice by which you will gain the powers to conquer the whole world. And he did that. He did that, and then he then attacked the demigods this time. So this time it was the turn of Bali Maharaj to do the attacking one more time. And he had more powers because, he had Sukracharya, a Brahman, on his side, and he had performed the sacrifices. So in the material world, the rules are like that if you do certain things, then the result is guaranteed that it'll happen to you. So if you perform, 100 Ashwamedh Yagyas, you will get the position of Indra, and you will enjoy that. So of course, when he started attacking the demigods were concerned, and so they went to their spiritual master, who is Brihaspati, who's another Brahmana. And so Brihaspati then said that, what, look here, Bali Maharaj has been given a lot of powers because of him serving his spiritual master. So there's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing that you can do about it. So the best thing that you do is, don't fight them, because you're not going to win that fight. Don't fight them. Just become invisible. So now these demigods and the demons they have got powers. They're powerful people, and they're able to perform these kind of tricks that, I can become invisible, I can multiply myself a few times and things like that. So they told him, and they did that. So all of the demigods just, hid themselves by just disappearing and becoming invisible. So you can just imagine that, how a mom is going to feel if her kids all disappear. So same thing happened with Aditi as well, who is the mother of all the demigods. She started missing her sons. And she was very, very morose. And at that time, her husband, and so who is her husband? Kashyap Muni, right? And so her husband was out away somewhere doing some austerities. So when he comes back, he sees that there's a lot of moroseness in the heavenly kingdom. And so he asks his wife, what's the deal? And so she tells him that I'm missing my sons. And so he tries to first, pacify her through philosophy and ask her to read this and that. But, she's a mom and, highly emotional. She's a soul, and souls are sentient. If she's missing her sons, then she's missing her sons. Right? So we need to do something about it. So then he says, okay, there is another. Now you can do a, sort of a sacrifice, do some fasting. There's a vrat that you can keep. And that is a payo vrat. And she says, okay, if you perform this, it's something that you do for 12 days. And if you do that, and in that particular vrat, what you do is you worship Krishna in the form of Vasudeva or Janardhan. So she does that, and Lord appears to her. And then she says that, I am missing my sons, and is there something that you can do to bring my sons back? And we're tired of Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj is ruling the whole planetary systems, the entire universe. So the Supreme Lord agreed. He says, okay, I'll become your son, and I will maintain the demigods. But still he says that, the demons are favored by the Brahmanas. So the Lord also refers to the Brahmanas, and he says that no one can defeat them. So, and an interesting thing to note over here is that, the Lord loves the Brahmins. He's very close to the Brahmanas. And so whenever a Brahmin gives a particular benediction to anybody, the Lord doesn't mess with them. Or when the Brahmana gives a curse also, the Lord doesn't mess with it. I mean, in the long term, a Brahmana's curse might come out to be beneficial to you, but he doesn't mess up with that. It's kind of like, it also happens in real life also. Like, if Krishna is the CEO of an organization and the demigods are on the board of directors, the board of directors are under the control of the Supreme Lord, but the board of directors have got some autonomy. And the CEO always just doesn't go and poke his nose and stop them from doing certain things. They operate in their own areas, and things happen that way. So it's the same way Krishna also lets them be. So he tells her that I won't be able to defeat him if you're thinking that we'll be able to kill Bali Maharaj. That's not going to happen. So he comes and he takes birth as Aditi's son in the form of Vamana the Brahmana. So then what he does is that in the form of you can look at this beautiful form. He's having a nice little umbrella on his head. He's having a kamandalu. He's very short. He's very beautiful. And then he goes to the sacrificial arena. So what is that sacrificial arena? So that's a sacrificial arena where Bali Maharaj is performing sacrifices. It's somewhere close to the Narmada river in India. So he goes there. And Bali Maharaj is out there, so it's sacrifices happening, and he's giving away things to the people, to the Brahmanas who have arrived there. So he goes there, and he also begs for charity from Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj is, he's a giver, and he's in a very nice mood. So he says that, ask whatever you want. and I will give you what you want. Do you want land? Do you want money? Do you want a Brahmin girl to marry? Whatever do you want, I'll give it to you. And then he says that he wants only 3 steps of land. He just wants 3 steps of land. He says, only 3 steps? That's very small. How will you survive on that if you just have this much? I mean, he's a dwarf, so how much can he cover by 3 steps? But then Lord Vamana, who's the personality of Godhead in the form of a dwarf, he says, no, I'll just need that. And what he does is when Bali Maharaj agrees, he expands his body, and then he takes big steps. And in the first 2 steps, he actually completes and covers the entire universe. And then for the 3rd step, he asks Bali Maharaj, where should I put the 3rd step? So where does he put the 3rd step? On Bali Maharaj's head. Yeah. Give your answers on the phone because we have people attending this online as well. So he puts it on the head of Bali Maharaj, and that's the complete and the ultimate surrender that happens. So in this narration, as we follow the incarnation of the Lord as Vamana, we see there's a lot of Brahminical things going on there. There's a lot of Brahmins involved, different varieties, different moods, different aims, and different methods of achieving the aims as well. So the question then is that, who is a Brahmana? Who exactly is a Brahmana? Because the moods and flavors are very different in this narration. So when we talk about Brahmana, then, it's a Sanskrit word. We write it down in English, and a lot of time we get confused between the word Brahmana. And as you can see, there is a bar on the A, and there is a dot underneath the N. So, there are accents, and there's a particular way in which you pronounce that word. So it's Brahmana, right, in Sanskrit, Brahmana. And then there's also a word Brahman, P-R-A-H-M-A-N, Brahman. So they have a relationship between them, but they're not the same. Right? So let's look and see first address what's a Brahmana. And we'll go to Gita and see what does Gita tell about Brahman. So Arjun asks a question to Krishna in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says, Kim tadhram kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidevam kim uchyate. So he's asking, kim tadbram. So he's asking him a question about Brahman. What is Brahman? He's asking that question. So then Arjun inquired. Anybody wants to read the translation for this verse? Monisha. Yes, thank you.
Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is this self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. So
he's asking them his questions, and then he asks some more in the next verse, but we won't go into that because we want to know the answer. What does Krishna say when he's asking Kim Tad Brahm, Kim Adhyatman? What exactly is Brahman? Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhav Karo Vicharga Karma Sangitaha. Anyone from this side? Give us the translation for this verse.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental, living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities.
Okay, thank you. So one thing, he said that living entity is called Brahman. What's another word for living entity? Jiva. And English? Soul, right? So he's saying that Brahman is the soul. Okay? And one more thing that I want you to observe here, notice in this verse is he's saying that he's defining karma. How is he defining karma? Of material world, yeah? Please use a microphone because those online won't be able to hear your nice answer. Please, can you repeat it for the benefit of...
Action pertaining to the development of material bodies of the living entities is called karma.
Is called karma, right? So living entity is Brahman, and he says that when you get a body, you get it, that is karma. Right? Your karma gets you a body. So we'll keep that in mind. Okay? So in the purport, Prabhupada says that, the soul, Krishna immediately answers, he says that soul is Brahman. But then he's cautioning and he's saying, okay, Brahman is there, it's indestructible, it's eternal. But then beyond Brahman, there is something which is known as Para Brahman, which is beyond the Brahman as well. And that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay? So he's saying that, people can make, address, sometimes even God is addressed as Brahman. And the soul is also addressed as Brahman. But he's cautioning and he's saying, but the term Para Brahman is used only for the Lord. You can't use the word Para Brahman for the soul. Right? Because soul has got a lower in the hierarchy. Soul is much lower. We are just parts and parcel of Krishna, not equally strong as he is. Okay? So let's see what the Bhagavatam says about Brahman. It's your favorite words? Vadanti tat tatvidas. You want to speak that words? Go ahead. Yeah. How many mics do we have? Maybe we can keep one in each row, if possible. Yeah. Yeah. You can lead and everybody can sing with you. Yeah.
Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate.
Right? So there is a mention of Brahman as well. And it says that the learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth. So there is a learned person. So he's learned. He studied something. He's got knowledge. He has learned something. So the learned transcendentalists, so those who are knowledgeable not in the material field, right? They are knowledgeable in the transcendental world about activities and objects and things in the transcendental world. So learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. Okay? So the word Brahman will also apply to the Brahman effulgence that comes out from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay? So Brahman can be used in that term as well. In some cases actually, the word Brahman is also used to address saintly persons. So they'll also be called Brahman. So just keep that distinction in your mind. So now the question is, okay, back to Brahman versus Brahmana. So now we know what is Brahman. Okay, what we call, now let's see what is a Brahmana. Right? Now when we look at the word Brahmana, I never had come across this word before because I was always Brahmin. That's what we call. So what's the difference between Brahmin and Brahmana? Anybody wants to volunteer? Any guesses? Is there a difference? Go ahead.
Is it Brahmin by birth and Brahmana are the qualities?
The qualities? Okay. Well, the word Brahmin is actually nothing but an angelicized version of the Sanskrit word Brahmana. So you will find in some of the books, you'll find that people who are not using diacritics or not using Sanskrit terms, they're just using the English term for it. So when they say Brahmin, I'm a Brahmin, I'm come from a Brahmin family, they're basically saying, I'm coming from a Brahmana family, right? So that's what it is, Brahmin and Brahmana. So then who is a Brahmana? Right? Who exactly is a Brahmana? So we look at this picture, he looks like a Brahmana, right? He's writing something. Maybe he's writing literature. He looks like Vyasadeva, I don't know. Well, and then there are animals who are not afraid of him. I can see a snake, I can see a lion over there, and then everybody's sitting peacefully. Maybe he's a Brahmin, right? But we can go and look at another picture. Now he's this another guy. He looks like a Brahmin too, right? He's got tilaks and he's got a panchang. He's going to tell you what the tithis and, good days, bad days. He's going to do all that to you. So is he a Brahmin, right? Now we have got this, a person is putting some water on the head, but the person on the right is a Brahmin or the person on the left is a Brahmin. We don't know who's a Brahmana, the right one or the left one, right? Both look like Brahman at least. The one on the right, definitely he's showing. And then we have, who is this? Parashuram. He was born in a Brahmin family, right? So is he a Brahmin? Who is he, right? We all know he's Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead, okay? And what was he famous for? Parashuram? What did he do? He acted as a Kshatriya. And what did he do while he was acting as a Kshatriya?
All the kings, Kshatriya kings. 21 times.
21 times, right? So that's with his device that you see in his hands over there, okay? The axe. So he did that. Any guesses who this guy is? He's Ramana. So is he a Brahmana? Hey Ramana, are you a Brahmana? Like that. So, Chanakya, so is he a Brahmana? Right? So I mean, they're addressed as Brahmanas. Chanakya Pandit, Chanakya is a Brahmana, he's a Brahmana, Ravan was a Brahmana. So who is actually a true Brahmana? I mean, they're good and they're bad. They're cunning and they're innocent, like that. Okay? So to understand who is a Brahman, we first have to understand a little bit about the modes of material nature. Right? Because we are in this material world and the concept of Brahman, etc. applies in the material world. The concept doesn't apply to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is not a Brahman or a Kshatriya. It only applies to people who are under the modes of material nature. So there are 3 modes of material nature. Bhagavad Gita tells us in chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And let's look at those. So Bhagavad Gita says that there are 3 modes. What are the 3 modes of material nature? There are goodness, there are passion, and then there is ignorance. And he says that when the eternal entity comes into contact with this material world, right, with the nature, with the material nature, Krishna says to Arjuna, he says that he becomes conditioned by these modes. So we all know about this, standard conditioning story where a person used to, show some food to the dog and the dog would salivate by looking at the food, and then he started ringing the bell also and then offer the food and the dog would salivate, and after some time he removed the food and he would just ring the bell and the dog would salivate because he started associating with that okay, ringing of the bell means food is coming. So similarly, the living entity also who is in this material world, depending on the various modes that are there, will act in a particular manner. If you are under the mode of goodness, you will act in a particular manner. If you're in the mode of ignorance, you'll act in a very different manner. So you get conditioned in those modes. So the first mode is the mode of goodness. And somebody from the back, I would like you to request you to please tell me about the mode of goodness from the Bhagavad Gita. It's verse number 6 from the 14th chapter. You can read from the slide there. You can read, Mataji? Yeah.
O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by the sense of happiness and knowledge.
Thank you so much. So 2 things, what will happen to the person who is in the mode of goodness? He'll have 2 things, right? Happiness, he'll have knowledge, right? And then one more thing about the mode of goodness in the hierarchy, what does it say? It's purer than, thank you so much. It's purer than the other. So that is the hierarchy, right? It's the other 2 modes are there, but this is purer than the other 2 modes, right? And it is illuminating, and it'll free you from all sinful reactions. So there's a lot of promise there, right? In the mode of goodness. Then the next one is the mode of passion. And this is born of unlimited desires. I want this, I want that, this and that, I got this, I want more. So because of the unlimited desires and longings, there'll be a lot of activity also that'll happen, a lot of activities, ugra karma, Have you seen any people, have you seen anybody in the mode of passion? Because you all look in the mode of goodness to me. Most of the people are in the mode of passion. Do you agree? And where do you find them? Corporate world? Okay, very good. I'm glad I left it. Okay. So because of this being in this particular mode, what happens is the person gets attached to fruitive action. So what's fruitive action? That when you do an action and you're thinking about the fruits. And why are you thinking about the fruits? It's called fruitive action. You're thinking about the fruits because you want to enjoy the fruits. Right? You can think about fruits of action if the fruits were to be delivered to Krishna. Right? You can think about it as much as you like. You can operate on that ground as much as you like. But if you're thinking about it on yourself, like Krishna says that karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Right? You have got the right to perform your duty, but you don't have a right to think about the results of that action. But don't, also say that, okay, then I won't do anything. Do whatever you need to do, but don't think about the results there. So that's the mode of the passion that we talk about. Okay. Then the last mode is the mode of ignorance. And anybody wants to tell me about the mode of ignorance from what Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, verse number 8 tells us? Go ahead, Prabhuji. Speak it out on the microphone.
O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness born of ignorance is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
Right? So have you come across mode of ignorance, and have you ever been in mode of ignorance? No? Never? Ever? Always? Sometimes? Right? I mean, I remember when I was doing my engineering training, I was in Haridwar. I was lucky to be there to do my training right next to the Ganges. She used to flow from the tap water in my room. And so we were all engineer trainees. I was the only female there. And so I used to stay away from all the other men who were in a boys' hostel. But I was allowed to go and meet them because I used to go and eat food in their room, in their dining hall. And so I would go to meet them in their rooms and things like that. And I would enter the room and I would be like, oh my goodness. It used to be so dirty, so cluttered, and And I would tell them that, why don't you just get a little broom? It's a small room. Why don't you just get a broom and clean it? How long does it take? It takes me 5 minutes to clean my room and things like that. And they would say like, no, that's what, we don't do it that way. We just come here, we take our things, we just drop it on the ground. And the person who comes to clean, actually, she comes to clean when we are away in our training, so she never cleans the room. But we have found a device. We are engineers, and we have found a way of cleaning the room. We just take the table fan, and we run it, and we just blow all the thing towards the corner of it, and that's it. And we make sure that we don't sleep in that corner. And I was like, oh, wow, now that's mode of ignorance for sure. Now, so, and people do that. People do that a lot. Especially I've seen with students, they do, and engineer trainings were fresh from the college there. And coming back after doing grocery shopping, you have got some change. They would throw the change on the ground, not bother to put it in the in a box or something. And when they ran out of money at the end of the month, then they would go, crawling to the corner of the room and hunt for the coins, which were by now buried under all the things that you had, pushed using the electrical fan. So they were mechanical engineers. They were they were ingenious, but you can also use your intelligence in the mode of ignorance. That's what I'm trying to emphasize here. There. So it will bind you to madness, to indolence, to laziness, and also to sleep. Laziness is also when you try to use a different limb to do action when a particular limb is assigned to do it. And what I mean by that is that when you are in the kitchen and you have opened the dishwasher and you opened it using your hands, and you close it, giving it a little thrust from your waist, or kicking it with your feet. When I came here to USA, I was appalled. I was shocked to think that how can you touch something with your feet that you're using to cook food, right? But that's mode of ignorance. People do that, kicking the refrigerator door shut. So those are all activities that you do in the mode of ignorance, and they bind the conditioned soul to that. And the thing is that there are modes of goodness, there's mode of passion, there's mode of ignorance, and there's a constant fight going on between them. Now, we were talking about fight. Who were the two that fight all the time? The demons and the demigods, right? So similarly, these modes of material nature are also fighting all the time. And then sometimes the mode of goodness will win, sometimes the mode of ignorance will win, sometimes the mode of passion will win. For example, when you are setting the alarm clock in the night and saying, I'm going to get up in time for Mangal Aarti, or get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do my to chant my rounds, what mode are you in? You're in mode of goodness, right? And then you go to sleep, and of course the alarm goes off, and then what do? You put it on snooze, you put it on snooze, and that's it, and that's it. So at the time that you're putting it on snooze, your mode of ignorance has taken you over. Right? So sometimes people know that they are aware of it, and that's why Vaisheshika Prabhu was telling the other day. He was saying that I put 2 alarm clocks. One alarm clock I put by my bed, and other alarm clock I put at the end of the room, so that when this one goes off, even if I can go and put it on the snooze like that, that one will keep beeping, and you're forced to get out of the bed. And once you're forced to get out of the bed, then of course, intelligence will guide you, and super soul will guide you to go and do your chanting. So there's a constant supremacy that keeps on happening, and sometimes one mode gets defeated, and so we have to make sure that we do activities so that the mode of goodness, stays alive and kicking for us. So the jiva actually, because the jiva is inside a material body, Hare Krishna, and so it gets infected by the modes of material nature. So the jiva is beyond this, but because it's in the mode, it's in a body, material body, and because of false ego, it thinks that I am this material body, so it gets infected by these modes of material nature. And this infection is actually a universal infection. It's not something that happens only in this planet Earth. When we think that, okay, I'm going to move and do something, I'm going to do some mystic activities, I'm going to do dhyan yoga, by which I'll have a power to transfer myself to another planet, maybe a superior planet, and I'll get away from all these modes of material nature. That doesn't happen. The infection of the modes of material nature is a universal infection. Brahma Bhavana Loka, from downmost planet, from Pata Loka all the way up to Brahma Loka, where Brahma resides, everybody is infected by one or the other modes of material nature. They might vary in degree, but every jiva soul is affected by that. And in this context about the jiva soul being infected, one of our acharyas, Sridham Swami, he gives a very good example. He says that there's one thing which is associating with the modes of material nature, right? So he says that a person could be in the police department, right? And so he's associating with the police department. Okay? And you could be a criminal. You could be caught stealing something in the mall, and they handcuff you and they take you to the police department. Then you are also associating with the police department. So there are two types of people associating with the police department, but that doesn't mean that both of them are bad. Okay? So association with the modes of material alone does not become, just by being association, just because you are in this body doesn't mean that you will become infected by that. Okay? So you'll be conditioned by that. Conditioned life begins when you get infected by that. And infection will come from prolonged association. It'll also come from your previous karmas, What were you doing in your previous birth? And remember when Arjuna asked, Kim tad brahm, kim adhyatmam, kim karma purushottama? He's asking what is karma. And what did Krishna reply? He said, development of the body is karma. So the type of body that you're going to get will depend on the karma that you have performed. That will be one of the reasons that you'll get. It also depends on another thing. The type of body that you get, what other thing it depends on? Because of your karma, what you have been doing. So you'll have happiness and suffering. And what's the other reason that you get a body? Go ahead, microphone.
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita what one thinks at the time of death.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajante kalevram. Yes. So whatever you are thinking, and what do you think? What are the likelihood of you thinking about something? I mean, what makes you think about something at the end of your life? Why would you think of something? I mean, if you think about Krishna, I'm sure all of you will think about Krishna. Why would you be doing that? And why doesn't, what makes somebody think about their son or daughter or their job or anything like that? Attachments or desires, right? Whatever you have, those will lead to development of the body. For example, Prabhupada says that, okay, a person, he's, swimming nicely, he's surfing on the ocean, and it's a windy day, he surfs, he's 8 hours, he's there in the water, and then at the time of death, what will he think? He'll say, oh, this is a sunny day, I'm going to miss my surfing. Okay, Krishna will say, all right, fine, I'll make you a fish. Then you can surf the whole life. So your desires lead you to you getting a particular body, like that. So then the question is that, okay, I've given you all the bad news, right? We are caught here, we are prisons, there's a universe, and everywhere it's infection. I'm trying to run away from this. So how do I get out of this contamination of matter? So the answer is, again, it gives in Bhagavad Gita towards the end of the 14th chapter, where he says that, Mam chayo bhyabicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samitityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, right? And the translation for that, Mayank Prabhu, do you want to read the translation for us?
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahma.
Brahman, right? So he comes to the level of Brahman, which is, we talked about the various terminologies and the various words. So the idea for us is that, we've got a human body, okay, fine, agreed, for some reason, somehow or the other, Prabhupada says that we are in this world and we are being, affected by the modes of material nature. So idea is to go back to Godhead. Idea is to get out of it. So in order to help us, what Krishna does is that he organizes the society, the human society, based on the various modes of material nature, right? So let's see. Bhagavad Gita to our rescue again. And let's all of us chant together loudly. Okay? Chaturvarnam maya sishtam gunakarma vibhagasaha tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram avyayam. And the translation also all together. Material nature and the work associated with them. The 4 divisions of human society are created by me, and although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Okay? So there are 4 divisions of society that has been created by Krishna. Chaturvarnam maya shrishtam. And so we have to think, Krishna, whatever Krishna creates, Shrishti is flawless. Okay? So let's see, what are the 4 divisions of society he has created? So there's the intelligent class, which is the first class, The name for that is Brahmanas. We call Brahmanas. And the mode of material nature is goodness. And then the second class is administrative class, Kshatriyas. And the mode is passion. Okay, say passion as a passionate person will say. Louder. Passion. Okay. Then the mercantile or the Vaishyas, and they have got passion mixed with ignorance. And when it is pure ignorance, then we have the 4th class of society, and they are the labor class, and they are the Shudras. Okay? Now, the question is that, okay, so Brahmin, mode of goodness, how do I recognize a Brahmin? Because we saw Ravana, Shukracharya, Vamana acting as some sort of a Brahmana. What exactly was going on there? So I want to recognize. Arjuna asked Krishna, right? Krim asita vrajeta kim. He wants to know. A person in transit, how does he look? How does he sit? How does he act? How does he talk? How does he walk? So we want to know, tell me some properties of a Brahmin so that I know this person is a Brahmin and I'll offer the due respects that are there. Okay? So in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, actually, Krishna just, lists all that out, and he says that, so I want, to go, look, I want all of you to go this way, in this direction, one by one, the first row, and starting with you, Prabhuji, you just give me one property, and then pass it on to the next one. And there's a microphone. And let's do it as a rapid round. Let's see how fast you can pass the microphone. So that's a test.
The peacefulness.
Peacefulness, Mukharvinda. Self-control, thank you.
Austerity, purity,
Tolerance.
Honesty.
knowledge,
Wisdom.
Religiousness.
Very good. So these are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So they are saying that, you just observe a person and if he's doing that. So do you know of somebody who has got all these properties? Peaceful, honest, tolerant, tolerated, a lot of things. Had knowledge, was wise. Achyuta is smiling. Give me.
Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right? So, this is one example. There are many more, right? But there is one right in front of you here. So, these are the qualities that we have. Then, for the Kshatriyas, let's see. Yeah, continue, please continue. Yeah.
Heroism.
Okay.
Power.
Power.
Determination.
Determination.
Resourcefulness.
Resourcefulness.
Courage in battle.
Courage in battle.
Generosity.
Generosity.
Leadership.
Leadership. Are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Question. So are there Kshatriyas only in India? They'll be everywhere, right? Because the definition, Krishna has created this and they will be everywhere because all that we are saying is the way that in which they work, right? Determination. Very determined to do something, right? Courage, power. So those are the things by which the Kshatriyas are going to operate. Then, where's the microphone? Please continue.
Farming.
Farming.
Cow protection.
Cow protection.
And business.
Business. These are the modes by which these are the ways in which the Vaishyas are going to work, the mercantile class of people work. And so you see what these two guys are doing? What have they done here? They have made some money doing what? Selling Skittles, right? So when I saw this picture, I was actually reminded of a boy who actually studied with my daughter when she was in high school. And they were just high school freshmen. So they had just joined the high school, which would mean a 14-year-old, like that, right? So they had joined and this boy used to go to Costco or ask his father to go to Costco and buy a really huge bag of candy, which, so many years ago, 15 years ago, you could buy a huge bag of candy for $2.50. So he used to buy that and then bring that to the school, and during the interval or recess session, he used to sell that candy to the kids for 25 cents a piece. And he would make money. And so at that time, and my daughter was just telling us a joke, like, look, that, like he does that, Daniel does that. And but now when I was reading this, the Bhagavad Gita, he immediately came to my mind. I was like, see, those traits are there. You're born with those traits, and you will do that. No matter what he was, what they were studying, wherever you are, those traits will come out naturally from you, like that. And for Shudras? Somebody, the microphone?
Labor.
Yeah, and?
Service.
Labor and service to others, right? So Shudras will want to do that. So there are so many people, even in the software industry, like, you come there and say, okay, you have been working very well. I want you to become a manager. No, I don't want to become a manager. I'm happy being a programmer. Shudra mentality, like that. Somebody had there, they join the company, and that's, the moment they join the company, there's induction program going on, and they will be asking, so tell me, what is the career growth plan? How soon can I become a manager? So they're already, thinking about that. Their administrative qualities, they want to manage, So these traits will show in how people are behaving, how they're talking, and things like that. So now, Krishna says that I've created these 4 varnas, and according to the way that you work. And he's saying that it is better to engage in one's own occupation and do that occupation badly, imperfectly, rather than trying to do somebody else's occupation and do it perfectly. Right? And because if you've got a duty which is according to your nature, right? If you're a Shudra by nature, be a Shudra, don't try to do a Brahmana work. If you're a Brahmana by nature, don't try to do Shudra work, like that. Okay? Because he says that when you are working, when you're doing your duty, which is according to the prescribed varna that you have, then you don't get the sinful reactions for doing that. Okay? So you can be perfectly imperfect, like that. So one of the things that again, Krishna points out is that, and Prabhupada explains in the purports, is that if you are, some kind of a work that is being done by the Shudras, don't try to work as a Brahmana just because you're born in the family of a Brahmana. So this is not your birthright. What varna that you get is not a birthright. Okay, that has to be remembered. You cannot artificially claim that you are a Brahmin because I was born in the family of a Brahmana. Right? So it's all about your proclivity. What exactly do you want to do? So what's your proclivity? You have to look deep inside and try to find out, who am I, What do I like to do? What are my inclinations? What's my disposition? What's my bias? Because those are the things that you would do, even when people are not looking at you, right? So, for example, if a person is left alone, if a child is left alone, and he picks up a book on spiritualism or a prayer book, and when the whole family is asleep, he's reading from the prayer book. So, what kind of a mode is he in? Mode of goodness. And he's what varna is he? He's acting as a Brahmana, right? So people will act according to their nature. When nobody is observing them, they will still do whatever they want to do. Okay? And so, because this is not a birthright, you will also notice that the children can be very different than the parents, right? The parents could be college professors, and the child gets a F in everything and wants to drive the Uber. You can do that. So about the mode of goodness, again, Bhagavad Gita says that, when when do you know that you're in the mode of goodness? He says that all the 9 gates that you have in the body, they get illuminated by knowledge. So remember in the beginning when we were talking about the modes of goodness, we said there were 2 things you get, right? Knowledge and happiness. Okay? So those who are in the mode of goodness can get this feeling that, I'm knowledgeable and I'm good. So they derive happiness from that also, which is again binding to them. So Prabhupada then explains in the purport that, what does it mean to have the 9 gates of your body illuminated? What does it mean that my ears are illuminated? There'll be some light coming out from my ears. What exactly is it? Right? What is the meaning of being illuminated? So he says that, when you start using them in the right way, when you start using your human body and the 9 gates that you have, the 9 holes that you have in your body for the right reason, then that is called as illuminating the gates. Your gates are illuminated with knowledge when you're using them for the right way. And so what is the human body meant for? Anybody wants to give me a Vedanta Sutra? Go ahead, belt it out, loud and clear.
Athato Brahma Jigyasa.
Athato Brahma Jigyasa, right? So because you have got a human body, you are supposed to do certain things and do the Brahma Jigyasa. Okay? So like I was talking about that when you have a proclivity for doing certain things, it doesn't matter where you are born. For example, who is this little one? Prahlad Maharaj, right? And where was he born? Whose son he was? And who was his grandson? Bali Maharaj, right? Of whom we are talking, right? Bali Maharaj is fighting the demons, the demigods and things like that. So he was born in the family of a demon, but nobody could stop him. He continued. He started actually preaching in his class. So Sankirtan in the classroom, that's Prahlad Maharaj. Then we also have the story of Dhruv Maharaj. So Dhruv Maharaj was in which family? He was in a Kshatriya family, right? And what happened to Dhruv Maharaj? His stepmother, right, insulted him, and he didn't like that because Kshatriyas don't like being insulted. So he went to his own biological mom, and the biological mom just said that, just go to God and ask God to solve your problems. He said, okay, I want to get a kingdom which is better than my grandfather. Basically, he wanted a kingdom better than Brahma, right? And so he starts to go out in search of Krishna or Narayan. And on the way, he's met by Narad Muni, and Narad Muni stops him and he says, where are you going? You're so small. And he tries to dissuade him, and that's Narad Muni's way of testing him. And he says that, look here, now, this happened. Oh, so your stepmom was rude to you, but you're just a boy. You're just a 5-year-old. I mean, when my daughter was 5-year-old, even if she, I was in India, so even if I, gave her a little smack, she would just come and hug me still. I mean, I used to be shocked by that. How can a child do that? You're beating and they come and hug you. But that's what kids are. I mean, they don't, or even to scold them, after some time they'll come back, start talking to you sweetly. So Narad was saying that, it doesn't matter. You're just a 5-year-old boy, it doesn't matter. And then he says, but if you are thinking that you are a grown-up, then you should understand, why she said. I mean, she said something very, very strong. She said that you don't have the right to sit on the lap of your father because you are not born from my womb. So she was talking about birthright. And she went to the extent of saying that you should, if you want to sit there, then come and be born from my womb, which means that Prahlad has to first die. Dhruva has to first die, and then get into the womb of Suruchi. And so that was pretty strong. So then Narad Muni says that if you're an elderly person, I mean, thinking like that in your head, then what's the big deal? You know how the world goes, And the other one is your dad's favorite queen, and she said that. What's wrong about that? So in either case, I mean, you should not go and do that. And then what did Dhruv Maharaj say? He said, all this talk that you're doing is meant for the Brahmanas, but look here, I'm a Kshatriya. I'm going to go. So that's when Narad Muni, then helps him find God. So wherever he was, and ultimately, when he finally finds God, and then God wants to give him material gains, he refuses. And that there he's manifesting the quality of a Brahmana. Because Brahmana doesn't want to get material gains from Krishna. So he does that. Then going further onto the descendants of Dhruv Maharaj. So descendant of Dhruv Maharaj, Anga. So one of them, he was he was a saintly king. So expected. Dhruva was good. So, a saintly king gets born in his hierarchy. And then in the lineage. And then there was Anga, who was he was a horrible king. He was bad. Vena, Dvena was horrible. He was bad, right? And then through the body of Vena, Maharaj Prithu is born. And Maharaj Prithu is like, the personality of God. He's an empowered incarnation of the Lord. So these things always happen, which is kind of just showing that, it's not something that you inherit like that from your parents. So you are a Brahmana. So we are trying to find out who's a Brahmana, right? So you're a Brahmana by deed, and you're not a Brahmana by your breed. Breed is basically where you are born. It's not from birth. You're not that, right? So position of the Brahmanas, one thing like I also mentioned when talking about the pastimes of Vamana was that when Vamana agreed to come and be born in the home of Aditi, he said that, yeah, I'll come, I'll take care, but I won't fight them because they have the blessings of a Brahmana. So Brahmanas are held in very high esteem by Krishna, right? And so when you look at the universe that we have, all the planetary systems and all, then those who try to approach God through that method by, first looking around yourself, looking at nature, giving that a form of the Lord. That form of the Lord is known as the universal form of the Lord, where you see everything, all the planets, all the human beings, the trees, the mountains, rivers, everything is inside it, okay? So in that universal form of the Lord, the Brahmanas occupy the highest position. They are the face. So you see over there, so the Brahmanas occupy the face. Now when you look at the body, the face is a very important part of your body, right? If you look at the face, actually most of your sense organs are on your face, right? How many sense organs do you have on your face? Eyes, nose, ear, tongue. Anything else is there on the face? Touch, the skin is also there on the face, right? So there are sense organs on the face, and that is why when people bow down before somebody else, you're actually putting your head onto somebody's feet. So you're saying the highest that I have, I'm putting it in front of the lowest that you have, and that is total surrender. So face is very, very important, and that's why you see the Brahmanas are assigned the position of being on the face of the universal form of the Lord. His arms are the Kshatriyas, because Kshatriyas in mode of passion, you need to do a lot of work, right? This work, that work, so you need all the arms, so they are his arms. And then the Vaishyas are his thighs, and the Shudras are underneath his feet. So that's how the universal form is there defined. So there is Brahmanas, and we talked about the modes of material nature. So we said Brahmanas is highest, and on the mode of material nature, we said goodness is the highest, right? And so there is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam which says, talking about the hierarchy of these modes. It says, Parthiva daruno dhumas tasmat agnir trayi maya tamas tastu rajas tasmat satyam yad brahma darshanam. So he says that firewood is better than, and equating firewood to the mode of passion, he says is better than earth, equating earth to the mode of ignorance. So he says just as firewood is better than earth, because if you have got firewood, then you can use firewood to do yajna. You can't just take raw earth and perform any yajna out of it. But if you sow a tree, then it extracts certain things from the earth and then produces wood for you from a tree. So he says it is better, and then but he says that even better than the wood is the fire that resides inherently inside the wood, because the fire has to be lit for you to do any kind of a sacrifice, right? So then he says, and similarly, the passion is better than ignorance, and even better than passion is the satyam. And why? He says that because when you reach the mode of satyam, then satyam yad brahma darshanam. So when you reach that stage, you have to reach that particular stage to be able to see Brahman, to get that darshan. So this is very, very important, because nowadays you see there are a lot of yoga studios where people are teaching them yoga. The word yoga itself means to connect to God. And there are various ways of connecting to God, starting with going into various positions and asanas and gestures and positions, things like that. But then guess what happens? Right after the yoga class is over, they will serve you meat, they will serve you alcohol, right? So you are not in the mode of goodness. You plunged immediately into the mode of ignorance. So don't think you're going to have Brahma Darshanam. There might be some lights that will come, some sparks that will come in your head, and as Prabhupada says, that you continue chanting, they will go away. Right? When Brahman comes, then you will know that you are really seeing God like that. So you have to, so Satyam is good and Brahmas do that. And then Satyam Yat Brahma Darshanam, when we are saying, is that, you have to transcend these modes of material nature also and go beyond that mode, that, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, you have to cross all this and go over. So can I rise I am in whatever state that I am, depending on my karma, can I rise and reach and go beyond? Can I do that? I'm in the mode of goodness, can I rise and somehow get helped or do something and I go there? Right? And the answer to that can be a yes, and the answer can be a no. It depends on who you are putting the question to. Rise up to goodness and beyond in this very life. Okay? So before I go into that, and let's just look at a few more terms that people use. And one of them is a caste Brahman. Have you ever heard of the word caste? Did people in India ever ask you, what caste are you from? And people criticize and say, oh, caste system in India is very bad. But then we are saying that Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam, Krishna created those. So what is this caste? And how is it different from the Chaturvarnam that we're talking about, right? So when we're talking about caste, so let's look at the origin and the meaning of the word caste. Okay? So caste actually, it's a system of dividing the society into hereditary classes. And then the origin for that, the origin for the word actually comes from the word, it's a Portuguese word which says casta. Casta. It's Portuguese. And casta, what it means is lineage, race, or a breed. So the word caste means breed. So breed means birth. So birth happens. Does the soul have a birth? Is the soul born? The soul is not born. The soul is eternal. So what gets born? The body, right? The body is born. So if you're talking about birth and breed and things like that, you're still hovering on the material plane. You're talking about that. So so we have to keep that in mind, and digging deeper, it comes from, pure, chastity. So casto also comes from that word. And that's why, when people buy a dog, they will say, what is the pedigree of the dog? Tell me who the parents were and the grandparents were. They want to know that there was no, so to speak, dirt that came into the lineage there. So that's the word that is used, the caste. And actually, the caste system is there even in the animals. Right? If you look at the beehive, there's a caste, there's a social order over there. There's a queen bee, she lays the eggs. Then there are the drones, and then there are the worker bees at the bottom. And all that the worker bees do is that they work. They have to go every morning, they have to go out, and they have to gather the honey. So they might just say, oh my goodness, I'm a Shudra, I have to go and get all the honey. So there's the caste, those kind of systems, hierarchical divisions are sometimes found in the animals as well. So the caste, the concept of caste is related to the body. And then there's another word called dvija. So dve means what in Sanskrit? Two, right? And ja means born, right? So dvija means twice born. So the word dvija is actually also sometimes applied to birds. Why do you think it is applied to birds? Because we always apply it to, exalted personalities, right? He's dvija. He's dvij, he's a Brahmin, he's dvij, like that. We sometimes use the word. So why is a bird called dvija? He doesn't get a sacrifice, a thread ceremony done. He doesn't wear a jineo or sacred thread. So why do you think birds? So let's go back and look at the birth of a bird. How are birds born?
Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, can I try?
Absolutely, on the microphone, please. Can somebody hand
I'm
them?
calling from.
Oh, absolutely. I thought you were speaking. Sorry. Please go ahead loudly.
Hare Krishna Mataji, because birds lay eggs, that's the first birth. And then the birds hatch from the eggs.
Very good. And who is that?
That's the second one.
Very good.
This is Pandit Srivas from Cincinnati.
Welcome, Pandit Srivas, and bingo on the dot. Right? So they are born two times. Once as an egg and once as a... once when the egg is hatched, then they come out of that. So that's why birds are called dvija. So now, when we come to the human society, and let's go and see, what is the meaning of dvija in terms of human society? Why are you a dvija? Are you a dvija? Am I a dvija? What exactly is dvija going on? So here's it. Here's one thing that pours water on everything. The first line, which says, Janmana jayate Shudra. So if any one of us was thinking that I'm born in a Brahmin family, I'm a caste Brahmin because I was born in a Brahmin family, This verse says that, Janmana jayate Shudra. Everybody at the time of the birth is a Shudra. And then, samskarat bhavate dvija. So then you do some, samskars. So the first birth is actually just an animal birth. There's no difference between your birth as a human being and an animal taking birth. The same seminal process, the same process of, giving birth. The second birth is actually the cultural birth, where they give you some culture, and where they will tell you that don't use your feet to kick shut the washing machine, like that, right? So, and then, the yagopi with sanskar and things like that. So you have to go through certain purificatory processes. And unless you don't do that, unless you do that, you cannot be called a Dvija. Okay? So, there's another term known as Brahman Bandhu. Right? That's also a term that is used. So let's see. An example of Brahman Bandhu is Ashwathama. Very, very vocally, this term was used against him. So quickly about Ashwathama is that Ashwathama was the son of Dronacharya, and Dronacharya was a Brahmin. And Dronacharya was whose teacher? Give her the microphone, please. And you have to tell us your name first.
Vishaka.
Vishaka. And Vishaka, tell us.
Arjun's teacher.
He was Arjun's teacher. Very good, right? So he used to teach things to Arjun. And what was he teaching Arjun? He was teaching him how to do yagyas. He was teaching him how to chant or do deity worship. What was he teaching Arjun? Do you know?
Archery.
He was teaching Arjun? Yes. Anybody wants to help her? What was he teaching him? He was teaching him
archery.
Archery, yes, correct, right? He was teaching him archery. So he's a Brahmin. He's teaching him archery, right? Something that has got to do with killing, right? You take a bow and arrow, you kill. So, so what happened is that after the Mahabharata Yudh, or during the Mahabharata Yudh actually, the Pandavas killed Dronacharya, and his son Ashwathama did not like it. So he was also a friend of Duryodhana. So Duryodhana was also dead. So he also didn't like that. And so in order to please his son Duryodhana was actually about to die, not exactly completely dead. He was lying on the battlefield. And so what he did was he said, okay, in order to please my friend Duryodhana, let me kill all the sons of the Pandus so that their lineage is completely annihilated. So while they were sleeping, he killed them, which is completely against the laws of war in those times. So he killed that. And so when the news came, and when Draupadi was lamenting, of course, Arjuna, who was a valiant husband, he said, okay, I'm going to, kill him and bring his head back to you and the crown jewel from his head back to you and things like that. So Arjun starts chasing him and Ashwathama starts running. And when he finds he's at a dead end, he has nothing else to do. So he releases the Brahmastra, and which is a nuclear weapon. And if you release a nuclear weapon, it is your duty to also be in a position to be able to withdraw it also. But he did not know that. So he made a very wrong decision of releasing it. And then in that context, words like Dvij Atmaja, which means that you are just a relative of a Dvija. Right? You're not a Dvija yourself. Because if you were a Dvija, you would have gotten some samskars into you which would have taught you not to kill sleeping kids. Right? Or not to release a Brahmastra when you don't know how to withdraw it. So you just happen to be having born in that family. You don't have any culture, so to speak, inside you. So he was addressed like that. Then again, Prabhupada says in the purport that the most intelligent man is called a Brahmana, and it is not a hereditary title. Right? And because his decision was premature, Prabhupada says that he's purposefully called herein the son of a Brahman. You're not a Brahman, you're a son of a Brahman. Right? So then, Mainam Parthasi Tatum Brahma Bandhum Imam Jahi. Now, Brahma Bandhum, again, he's addressing him as Brahma Bandhu. Okay? O Arjun, you should now show mercy by releasing this relative of Brahmana. Again, he's not calling him Brahmana, because his actions are not like that of a Brahmana. He's saying you're a relative of Brahmana because he killed this person. So Brahma Bandhu is there, right? And Prabhupada just says that, it is okay to call people as Brahma Bandhu, because if somebody is working in a high court, right? And he has a son. So he's a high court judge. His son is not a judge. His son can't make rulings because you need to have the necessary qualifications. But it's okay for you to address him as he's the son of a judge. That's fine, So that's why he's saying he's son of a Brahmana. He's Brahmana Bandhu. So Brahmana Bandhu could be a relative, and of course son is a relative. In this case, he was the son there. So let's see, what did I press? Okay. So again, going back to our question that can I rise up to the mode of goodness in this particular life? And I said that it depends on who you're asking the question. So no, say the smarta brahmanas. Okay? The answer is no. You're born a Shudra, you're going to be a Shudra aware. So Prabhupada, he gave a lecture, he was doing a Brahminical initiation in Bombay back in the 70s, and he said that according to the Smarta Vidhi, he's saying that unless one changes his body, he cannot be purified. So if you're born a Shudra, you will remain a Shudra forever. If you're born a Vaishya, you remain a Vaishya forever. Like that, because you have to be born there. So to be a Kshatriya, you have to be born in a Kshatriya family. You cannot, be a Vaishya and then aim to become a Kshatriya like that. Right? So the Smarta Brahmans are going to say that. Now, did we also talk about somebody else who was talking about that if you want to do this, you have to be born as this? Dhruv Maharaj, right? In the question, who said that? His stepmom said that if you want to be a king, if you want to be able to sit on my lap, then you have to be born from my womb. So she was also sort of, exhibiting this particular trait. So one thing that we have to keep in mind is that being born in a particular family, being born in a Brahmin family, that entitles you, it's actually it is not a privilege. It's not that you're born in a Brahmin family, it's not a right either. Right? It's not a right, it's not a privilege that you're born in a Brahmin family, so you're a Brahmin. It is actually a facility that is being provided to you. Just as if you're born in the family of a surgeon, then because your dad or your mom is a surgeon, then you will get the necessary environment in the home. Right? That if you want to ask some questions, your mom will be able to answer your questions, or dad will be able to answer your questions, they will tell you which schools to go, and of course if they are surgeons, they'll be making a lot of money, so you can pay the fees also for becoming a doctor like that. So it is actually a facility that you get. So let's go back to the sacrificial arena where our Lord Vamana Dev is there, and he's asking, Bali Maharaj, right? He wants something as in charity. So what he says that he went there, he asked for 3 steps of land. That's what he said, right? So he said 2 things, and which I brought these 2 verses in because they tell you about the quality of a Brahmin. So he said that a Brahmin who's satisfied with whatever is providentially provided to him, whatever you get through providence, right? If he is satisfied, because satisfaction is also a quality of a Brahmin, he is increasingly enlightened with spiritual power. But the spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahmin decreases. Just as a fire, if you put water on that fire, the fire will be extinguished. So this is very, very important. I remember when my grandfather had died, my father used to perform the monthly Shradd ceremony for that. And while we're talking about the Shradd ceremony, I might just use this wonderful opportunity of having the microphone in my hand and clarify that there's a difference between Shradd and Shraddha, which is my name. My Guru Maharaj gave me a beautiful name, Shraddha, which means faith. And Shradd is actually a ceremony that you do for the dead. Okay? If you follow the diacritics properly, then you will know that the diacritics are different. And they are 2 very different Sanskrit words. But back to the Shradd situation in my home, that my father gave a lot of charity to the Brahmin. And the Brahmin actually returned and he said, this is too much, this is too much, this is too much, I don't want. And when I was reading this, I was remembering that Brahmana, that he was satisfied with whatever, people used to give him. That was his level. So like that. So Lord Vamana Dev told that. And he said, therefore, O king, from you, the best of those who give charity, I ask for only 3 paces of land. By such a gift I shall be pleased, for the way of happiness is to be fully satisfied to receive that which is absolutely needed. Absolute needs, like there is enough for every man's need, but there's not enough for a single man's greed in this world, right? So you have to be satisfied with that. So when all this conversation is happening, then Shukracharya, who is a Brahmin, we saw that, he being addressed as a Brahmin, and so he is saying, he addresses Bali Maharaj and says, "O son of Virochan," Virochan is Prahlad Maharaj's son, "this brahmachari, this one, he's in the form of a drop, but he's actually Vishnu and he's going to come and take away everything. Just be very careful," right? And then he says, you have promised to give him 3 steps of land in charity, but when you give it, he will occupy the 3 worlds, right? Middle, lower, and upper. And you are a rascal, he says. You do not know Mula. You do not know what a great mistake you have made by, agreeing. After giving everything to Lord Vishnu, you will have no means of livelihood. How shall you live? That's what he's saying. And then the purport, Prabhupada actually says that Mudha vartisyase katham. Tribhir kramer iman lokan vishvakaya kramishyati sarvaswam vishnave datva mudha, rascal, vartisyase katham. How are you going to survive? Your livelihood, how are you going to get that? And then Prabhupada says that, the word that he used, mudha, calling him mudha, and how are you going to earn him links? He says that Shukracharya was a Brahmin of the priestly class. So now he's explaining and defining classes of the Brahmanas that you can find. And he says that such classes of priestly Brahmanas are interested only in the remuneration. How much money am I going to get? Because the king is going to pay Shukracharya also. And if the king is going to give everything away to Lord Vamana, then what's going to happen to Shukracharya? So Shukracharya is also thinking about himself, right? The same thing happened in some other situation also, where the Brahmanas were thinking about their own thing and they sided with the wrong party. Anybody remember that? The Brahmanas? Yeah, please use a microphone. Yes, you're right. Bingo.
Dronacharya was trying to be faithful to
Yes.
Duryodhan and
Kauravas,
his family.
yeah.
Kauravas.
Yeah. So Duryodhan, and Prabhupada explains that, and he says that, Duryodhan and Kripacharya, they all sided with the Kauravas because they were paying money to him, so they were sort of, obligated. So sometimes they will do that with a sense of obligation also. So then Prabhupada says that a smarta Brahmin who's following just, the principles and the rituals, he says that the smarta Brahmins are always looking for material profits. And from this incident or from this pastime, we can infer that Shukracharya was actually some sort of a smarta Brahmin, where he was only looking for material gain from that. But we see that Prabhupada says he's a priestly class. Now all along we have been talking about Brahmanas, and now suddenly this term priest comes up, right? So what exactly is a priest? What do you think is a priest? Who do you think is a priest? Who do you think qualifies to be a priest? What does a priest do? Anybody got married here? You got married? Was there a priest in your marriage? Was there a priest? So what do priests do? They perform ritualistic ceremonies. Thank you so much, Mataji. What's your name? ISKCON Madhavi Devi Dasi ki jai. Right? So she has told us that who's a priest. Now I looked it up in the dictionary. That's what I do. Because I'm conditioned to do that every week. So he says that an ordained minister of the Catholic or Orthodox or an Anglican church having the authority to perform certain rites. Not everybody can perform a marriage ceremony. You have to do, even for non-denominational marriage ceremonies, the person who comes to do that has to pass some test and, do certain things like that. And, it comes from, Prius, from German origin. And so basically it's connected with ecclesiastical things. So it's got to do with, religion and things like that. So basically, priest is somebody who will be doing the rituals. And that's, majorly that they do. And then Krishna says about the priests, where he's talking about his opulences in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, of the priest, who is he? Brihaspati, right? Who is Brihaspati? He's the spiritual master of the Devtas, the demigods, right? So he said, because in this chapter, Krishna is telling about I am trying to explain that if you want to understand who Krishna is, then you can look at things around you, and I'm the best of that. So he says, among the elephants, I'm Airavat, and like that. Among the sacrifices, I'm Japa, like that. Chanting, I'm Japa. So like that, he's saying that among the priest, I am Brihaspati. Now, talking about Brihaspati, there's a very interesting thing that comes to mind. Is and as Madhav Govinda Prabhu was also telling us last Saturday, that Indra keeps on doing all kinds of nonsensical acts and against his spiritual master, and then he suffers because of that. So one fine day, Indra, what he did was that he offended his spiritual master, because we're sitting in a large assembly and all the people were praising him, as people do. They praise the king. And they were praising him, and he was sitting with his wife, Sachi, very much endorsed in it, enjoying all the accolades. And then his spiritual master came in, and he was so engrossed in that he failed to honor and respect his spiritual master. And when his spiritual master saw all that, he quietly walked out of the assembly. And then later on, when Indra came to his senses, he was like, what did I do? But by that time, Brihaspati was already annoyed with him. And so when your spiritual master becomes angry with you, it's the worst kind of a situation where you could be in your life. And so Indra is in that life. And so now you think that your communication is very good. You have WhatsApp and you have messages and you have iPhones and things like that. But back in those days, the communication network was very, very good, because as soon as this thing happened, the demons came to know about it. And guess what? The demons came and attacked. And they came and attacked, and now it was turn of Indra to start taking the beating. And so he wanted, some help. So then he approaches Vishwarupa, and he said that, can you become my priest? And because he wanted to do certain things. So Vishwarupa, he said that, okay, I can become your priest, because he was very respectful of the demigods. So when he was approached by them, he agreed. But however, he cautioned. And then what did he said? That, he said acceptance of priesthood. When you accept and become a priest, he said it's decreed. It's not something that is recommended. It's decreed because it causes the loss of any previously acquired Brahmanical credits or Brahmanical powers that you have acquired. They will go away. Right? So that's pretty heavy. So the person who is your priest, right, does a very heavy job, takes on a very heavy responsibility. So when we have the initiation ceremonies here at the temple, we see, the spiritual master performing ceremony, but in most of the cases, we have a standard priest, right? For ISV, who's a standard priest? Shivas Pandit Prabhu. So did you know that he takes so much of responsibility that if he performs the initiation ceremony for us, and if we do something wrong, then he also gets affected by that, in addition to the spiritual master. So being a priest is not an easy task. It is, it's a task of responsibility. It's a task of sacrifice also, to a certain extent on your part, because, what do I know how that person is going to react later on? So Prabhupada in the purport explains that, he says that for the priests, they do certain things that, pathan, they will study and they will teach. Then they do yajan and yajan, dan and pratigraha. So yajan and yajan is, when they do these sacrifices and they participate in the sacrifices, and then dan and pratigraha. So they also accept donations from others. And the interesting thing is that as soon as they have enough, sufficient to do the needs, because if a Brahmin or if a priest is actually spending his time doing patan and patan, where is the time for him to earn the money? Right? So somebody has to give him the money. So that's how the donation system works. So he gets a donation, but as soon as he got sufficient and enough, then he starts using the surplus in the favor of Lord Krishna. And so again, I think back of the priest who came to do the ceremony for my grandfather. His name was Gopal, by the way. And so he started returning, to my dad. Another option for him could have been to accept it and then use it for Krishna conscious activities later on, like that. So then, actually, if I quickly go back to this picture of Vishwarup, it's beautiful. And how many heads does he have? 3, right? And so just imagine that all this is happening in the upper planetary systems, right? That's where Indra is going, and he's asking that. So Shukdev Goswami, who's narrating all these stories to, who is he telling these stories to? Shukdev Goswami, Shuka. To whom is he telling? Parikshit Maharaj, right? Yeah, so he's telling the stories to Parikshit Maharaj, and he says that, Shukdev Goswami said that Vishwarupa, he was engaged as the priest of the demigods. He had 3 heads. And what was he doing with those 3 heads? Excuse me? Right? With one head, he used to drink the beverage called somras. Another to drink wine. And the third to eat food. And this I have heard from the authorities, he's telling, and that's the way. That whenever you come up with statements like that, you have to back it up. Somebody else would have told them. So he's learning it from the disciplic succession, he comes to that. But I just wanted to point out that, okay, these are the heavenly planets. People do certain things. They are priests, they drink wine, So we're just trying to, find out, like, who is a Brahmin? I just want to find that out, who that Brahmin, who can I call a Brahmin? I got into Dvijas and, Brahma Bandhus and, Brahma Atmajas and things like that. So this particular person, Vishwarupa, so he came, he's a Brahmin and he's acting as a priest. And so he's coming from the lineage of Brahmins on his side, which is, demigods on one side. But from his mother's side, there is demons. So, there were marriages. This shows that there is marriages also happening between them, So on his mother's side, there's demons. So he was asked by Indra to perform some sacrifices, and when he's doing those oblations, putting the oblations, he was offering those oblations to the demigods. But every now and then what he used to do was he also used to offer the oblations to the demons, because he's related to the demons as well. He has that soft corner for his mom, and he was doing that. And then Indra catches that, because that's what Indra is supposed to do. He's the head of the entire demigods, the head of all of the heavenly kingdoms. So he has to be alert. He's the CEO, so to speak. So he has to know what's going on. And so he knows, oh my goodness, this is what he's doing. The guy that I hired, right? Instead of writing software for me, he's reading, Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, he was doing the opposite here in this case. But anyway, so that's what he's just thinking. So what does Indra do? He cuts off his head. Right, that's what Indra does, right? He's got nice weapons. He cuts it off there. So then the son is died. The beautiful son with the 3 heads is down. And guess what? The father gets angry because son is dead and Indra killed his son. First Indra comes and asks him to do the ceremonies, and then the father obviously will not see anything wrong because the father has married the demon. So his father was Tushta, so he's very angry. So he says, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to perform a yajna so that a person will be born from this yajna who will kill Indra. So he's sitting there, he's chanting the mantras, except for that he makes a mistake and he doesn't pronounce the words correctly. And because he doesn't pronounce the words correctly, what happens is that instead of getting somebody out of the yajna who's going to kill Indra, the person who comes out is a person who will be killed by Indra. So completely opposite. So we have to be very careful about chanting these kinds of mantras, that especially the Vedic mantras, that they have to be pronounced correctly. They have to be pronounced by the right person. They have to be pronounced in the right place. And even the sacrificial arena that you see over there, the Yajna Kunda, it's not that you'll just dig a hole and throw some firewood into it and light a matchstick and boom, you'll have a sacrifice running. There is a science behind the dimensions of the Yajna Kund and things like that. So it's a pretty elaborate thing. It's very involved, very, very involved. So this is what happens, if you don't do the correct pronunciations. Okay, so we'll go back again to the sacrificial arena where our Bali Maharaj is asked for 3 steps of land, and Shukracharya is telling you, Mudha, don't do that. What's going to happen to the money? Like that. So then Shukdev Goswami says that, okay, the spiritual master, which is Shukadeva Goswami, so not the spiritual master, who is Shukracharya, he gets inspired. He gets inspired. So God is there in everybody's heart, but he inspires in people in different ways. So he inspires him and, to curse his exalted disciple Bali Maharaj. And he curses him. And on the other hand, there is Bali Maharaj who wants to disobey his spiritual master because he says, there's something wrong that my spiritual master is suggesting me to do. Okay. And then Prabhupada explains there that, why did this thing happen? Why did Bali Maharaj agree to give away the 3 steps to Vamana Dev against all the advice of his spiritual master, who had brought him to life, by the way, a few slides ago, right? So Prabhupada says that Bali Maharaj could do that because he had developed love for Godhead in his heart. And Shukracharya had not developed that. Right? And then he quotes from the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, he says that Krishna says that Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyantite. So if you are satatam, always, you are with priti, with love and affection, you are doing my bhajan, then I will give you the understanding that you will come to me. Shukracharya was not doing that. He was just a priestly person. He was just performing rituals, right? And then Prabhupada says, in Sutta Goswami says in Srimad Bhagavatam that, okay, so there are these 4 varnas Krishna has created, and so you have got your prescribed duties, and you should be performing your occupational duties. But then he says that dharma swanushtha pumsan vikshvatsena kathasu yat notpadiret yadaratim shrama eva hi kevalam. So he says that, if you're performing any of these occupational activities, that if they do not end in you developing a love for God. What is the word for God that they use here in this verse? Vishwaksena, right? So Vishwaksena is a plenary expansion of Lord, and he comes in the 10th Manvantara, the 10th Manu. Who's the Manu who's ruling right now? Under whose reign are we right now? And what number is that? 7th Manu, right? So this is something that comes in a futuristic Manu, but since the cycles repeat, so we know about that. Okay. And the interesting thing over here is that the Shukracharya was worried about that, if you give him all the money, then, what's going to happen to the money? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to you? One thing. And second is that he's saying, I'm going to curse. But he doesn't know that Lord protects his devotees, right? Lord will protect the devotees. So he didn't know that. So Prabhupada says that. And so good behavior should have been that he should have encouraged his disciples, say, yes, please go, and please give, like that. But then he ended up actually cursing him. So when people are smarta Brahmins, they are only ritualistics and things like that. They will tell you things like, you're born here, you can't do it, they can't change, you're doomed for life, and that's it. You are born in this family, and that's what you will end up doing. But then, yes, say those who follow the Pancharatriki Vidhi. They'll give an answer, yes, you can raise yourself to a higher mode. And then Narad Muni says that, if the symptoms or characteristics of a certain status or social order, they are being exhibited by someone, okay? Then he says that, for example, a Shudra boy is inclined to accept Brahmanism or Vedic culture, he should be given the chance. He should be given that chance. So that way, is that good news for us or not? Yes, that's big time good news, right? Haribol to Narad Muni. He's my favorite. So we find, and now of course, in our parampara, we follow the Panchratrik Vidhi, and that's why we encourage, and that's what Prabhupada did. When Prabhupada came here, forget about the Varnas, forget about finding a Kshatriya or even a Shudra or a Vaishya here in America. He found Malechas, the people, the worst, the hippies, what kind of a culture do they have, what backing, what actions are they leading. But then Prabhupada was so magnanimous that they converted them into Brahmanas, right? And you can see in their life how dedicated they are. So he did that. And even, far back as 500 years ago, we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also propagating the same thing. And there's this thing about Ekadashi, that we all know that Ekadashi is a favorite day for Krishna, right? Krishna likes Ekadashi. And so if you are a devotee of Krishna, then you should be honoring Ekadashi and you should be doing something on Ekadashi. And we do that by keeping Ekadashi vrat, right? But there is a ritualistic code, so to speak, or those who just follow the rituals. It is that, if you are a widow, then you don't keep the Ekadashi vrat. Now, Ekadashi vrat is so purifying, spiritually as well as biologically, materially. It's a very, very purifying vrat. And why are you preventing a widow from doing that? A widow should actually be encouraged more to go towards God, right? Otherwise she might fall down. And instead of that, you try to put all these kinds of rules and regulations. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually told his mother, Sachimata, that, you should keep the Ekadashi vrat. And then she said, yes, I will do. And then she started doing that. So, so the good news here is that, okay, so wherever we are, we can become a Brahmana. So what is the path? How do I go? What is the way for me to become a Brahmana? And so another term, Vipra. So there's a stop there. There are, on the way to your destination. There's a term called Vipra. So who is a Vipra? How do you become a Vipra? Because you are born as a Shudra, right? Everybody's born as Shudra. So it says, Janmana jayate Shudra samskarat bhaved dvija. This much we knew. And now it says, Veda pathat bhaved Vipra. So now if you start reading the Vedas, so a Vipra is a learned person who has read the Vedas. Okay? So by studying this Vedic wisdom, he becomes a Vipra. Then Krishna says again in the 10th canto, where he's defining all his opulences, he says, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Because if you are pathet, right, there's a lot of pathet and pathat and patanti that is happening here also. People read all the time. They're surfing the internet. They're reading all kind of literature. People are going into universities. There's a lot of research going on. A lot of money being spent here and there. All hovering on the material plane, right? And people are studying the Vedas, and most of the time people study the Vedas just to get some relief from this material world, right? What sacrifices can I do to become beautiful, to prevent old age, to prevent disease, to become an administrator, to rule the earth, to get a beautiful husband, get a beautiful wife, so on and so forth. All those things are written in the Vedas, and you can spend a lot of time doing that. But Krishna says in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vedescha sarver ahamava vedya. So from the Vedas, I am to be known. So if you really have to do the patanti, if you really have to study the Vedas, then whatever that way that you're studying, ultimately you have to reach and know about God. But the problem is that the language of the Vedas is very flowery. Krishna tells that to Arjuna as well, right? You can get sucked out into that. So Vipra, you study that. And then it says, Brahma janatiti brahmana. So one who knows the Brahman is actually a Brahmana. Right? A true Brahmana. So did Shukracharya know Krishna? He just saw him as Vishnu, somebody to fight, and somebody who could be killed. For example, Kansa used to say, I'll kill Vishnu, I'll kill Vishnu. So you're thinking, right? That's what Krishna says. Avajananti mamoda, manusham tanum ashrita. People don't, they are, people who are less intelligent. They think that I have a human body. So they don't understand what is Brahman. Okay? So Prabhupada says that after studying, when he knows that I am spiritual, I am not this matter, and he knows the constitution of himself, the constitution of the Supreme Lord, then he is a Brahmana. Then we can call that person as a Brahmana. And so a Brahmana is one who knows Brahman. And we knew and we heard and read about Brahman in the beginning. Kim tad brahm, kim adhyatmam, kim karma purushottam. That's what Arjuna says, right? So that is why, as Achyut Chaitanya Prabhu had pointed out, Thato Brahma Jigyasa, that you have got this human body, so you should use this human body to find out about Brahma. And Brahma is that, Brahma also refers to the Vedas. So again, from the Vedas, you should find knowledge about the Vedas, but then the ultimate aim should be that you should know Krishna ultimately. And in this Kali Yuga, where everybody, Alpayusha, right? If we have got short lives, we can't study the Vedas, they're huge, they're lakhs and lakhs of verses, the Sanskrit, and so on and so forth. And they don't have purports, as rich as Prabhupada gives to the book. So we, read different literature. So then Prabhupada also explained, and he says that when Rishabh Dev is explaining to his sons about, what the duties are of the mankind and things like that, Prabhupada says that a Brahmana should take pity on the people and he should preach Krishna consciousness in order to elevate them. Our little Bhakta Prahlad was doing exactly the same in his classroom, right? He was teaching his demonic friends about Vishnu. It's because he took pity on them, and he used to do that. Okay? So we talked about Brahmana. I've kind of, come to, okay, so this is a Brahmana, he understands the Brahman. But what is the opposite of a Brahman? We might also know that, right? Vidyamcha. Yes, you should know what is Brahman. You should also know what is not Brahman. And what is the opposite of a Brahman? So any guesses? What is the opposite of a Brahman? What is the opposite of a Brahman called, actually, in Sanskrit? Thank you. Please give him the microphone to Venudhari Gopal Prabhu, who is on the broadcast. And Prabhuji, can you come out for a quick minute, please?
Kripana.
Please, can you please come out here? and over there we have the camera. Can you tell them what is the opposite of a Brahmana?
Kripana.
Thank you so much. So opposite of Brahmana is a Kripana. And let's give a big round of applause to Venudhari Gopali Prabhu for two things. One is for telling us who's the opposite of Brahmana. Second is for bringing this live broadcast to millions of people who are watching us here. Haribol. Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya. Krishna says to Dhananjaya Arjun, Buddhao sharanam anvichha kripana phala hetava. Right? So Kripana, there is a mention of the word Kripana over there. And as soon as it comes back up, because I pressed the wrong button, so he says, O Dhananjay, keep all abominable activities far distance by devotional service. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of the work are misers. So misers means Kripana. Okay? And the complete surrender was Bali Maharaj. He gave his head and said, okay, put the third foot on my head. That is the complete surrender that he gave. And so Prabhupada, when he's explaining all that, he says that, when the demons do something, they want the result. Like, they will immediately, I did this, where's the result? I did this, where's the result? Whereas a devotee doesn't think about the result. Karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So a human being has got the developed consciousness that other subhuman or the animal, other than the subhuman or animal society. So he has to utilize. Just he says that, suppose you have got hundreds of thousands of dollars and you don't utilize it. You just keep it. You're called a miser, right? He just kept it and you'll die and somebody else will use it. So you don't use it for anything. If you got that much money, you should use it for propagating Krishna consciousness. You're not using that. So similarly, he's saying that, if you have got a human body and not using that for gaining Krishna consciousness, then you are a krapan. You're using the body just for your own sense gratification. That's bogus, that's wrong. You should not be doing that. Okay? So, if you are a Brahman, okay, now you're a human body, you are a Brahman. One of the qualities of Brahman, he says that he is Udar, and Udar means liberal. And Prabhupada again, explains the difference. He says, we're not talking about liberated. Liberated means, out of this body and, that comes. He's saying liberal, Udar, I will give. So that's why Brahmanas would like to go and they like to give knowledge. The best thing that you can give is Krishna consciousness to people. Okay. So then Brahmanas, then we also hear the word Vaishnava. So then who is a Vaishnava? Okay. So the interesting thing is that we said that Brahmana knows the Brahman. One who knows Brahman is Brahmana. But in the beginning we said, what is Brahman? Brahman is the soul, right? And then super soul, and the effulgence, and Bhagwan also, right? So which Brahman do you know? Right? So it's most of the times what happens, Prabhupada tells us, is that when a person is a Brahmana, most of the Brahmans will stop at just the effulgence level. They'll stop there, they don't go further. But when you go further and understand what is Krishna, then you become a Vaishnava. Okay? So that's what Prabhupada tells us there. So Chaturvarnam me ashrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. So Chaturvarnam, so what were the Chaturvarnas? Brahman, Vaishya, Shudra and Kshatriya, right? But this Vaishnava is even beyond that. It's even beyond that. So it's very difficult for other people to understand that, what you do as a Vaishnava is completely transcendental. That Vamana Devi is completely transcendental, Activities Brahmans do is, the Vaishnavas do is transcendental. Prasad is transcendental, like that, They are on a totally different plane of activity there. So in this regard, there's a very interesting pastime, which is there in the Bhagavatam and also in the Krishna book, and which is of the Brahmanas' wives. So there were some Brahmanas, they were performing, they were smarta Brahmanas, which means they were very good at ritualistic things. They could pronounce the verses, memorize, they knew exactly how to do things, and they were performing a sacrifice. And then Krishna and Balram, they were there in the forest, and they were playing with the cowherd boys, and the cowherd boys were very hungry. And they said, Krishna, we want food. So Krishna said that, okay, you know what, there are some Brahmanas out there, and they are performing some sacrifices. And there's a lot of food being cooked there because their wives are preparing nice things for the sacrifice. And they will just go there, and they don't know me, they don't understand me. So just go there and tell them that Balram needs some food. So ask them to give some food. And so these cowherd boys, they go there and they glorify Krishna and Balram, and they tell the Brahmanas that, this is actually also the right time during the sacrifice that you can give food, because when you're performing a sacrifice, you just can't, take the food and give it willy-nilly like that. It has to be at a particular point in time. Like, if you're sacrificing an animal, you can give food before that, but not during that, and things like that. So this is complicated stuff. I don't know much about that. But the Prabhupada explains that they told them, the Brahmanas, that also. They told them the rituals also, that ritualistically it is okay for you to give the food. But they said, no, we can't give it. We have to finish this off and we won't give it. So these cowherd boys go back there, unhappy and sad. And so they go back and tell the Krishna that they said no. Then Krishna comes and says that, Krishna says, okay, actually you go to their wives and ask them for the food. So they go back again to the wives and they ask them to give them some food. And the wives, they know, they are so happy at seeing them. They're so happy when they hear about that Krishna and Balram are there. They take all the foods, they pack it into baskets and they give it to the boys, and they want to go with the boys to meet Krishna and Balram. And then all the Brahmanas who are there, they're saying, how can you leave a sacrifice? Because a sacrifice is not complete unless your spouse is there next to you. So how can you do that? But they still leave, and then they go to Krishna, and then Krishna takes all that, and everybody has a feast, and then Krishna tells them, you go back. And then they say, how can we go back? We left our husbands there, and now they're not going to allow us to come back. But Krishna says that they will allow. So this is a classic example of smarta Brahmanas versus the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas just is focused on Krishna, will not care so much about rituals if the service involves that you're serving the Supreme Lord. We also have the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and what was the disciple's name who was serving him? Govinda, who was serving him. So once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has nice prasadam, and then he was very tired, so he just lies down on the doorway like that, blocking the entire doorway. And Govinda had the duty to massage his legs and massage his body and things like that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was lying on the doorway, so he was little perplexed at what do I do? How do I walk over the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And he thinks for some time, but then he covers his body with a chadar, and then he walks over it, and then he gives the massage, whatever, and then he waits there for the Lord to wake up. And when the Lord wakes up, he sees he's sitting there for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever time he takes a nap, and he says, what are you doing here? You didn't take prasadam. So he says, but Lord, you were there blocking the doorway for me to go and have prasadam. So he said, then how did you come into the room? So then he said, to perform your seva to you, my Lord, I am willing to perform anartha and go against the rituals or the rules, but for my own satisfaction, for my own enjoyment, I will not do that. So that is how a Vaishnava actually operates on that frame. So again, our nectar of instruction talks a lot about atyahara, prayasascha, so things that actually make your devotional service dwindle and come down. And one of the things that he says is niyam agraha, not following the rituals, agraha, and agraha, following it too much is also wrong. It's also detrimental to your devotional service. So that's why you'll see that here we have very simplistic ceremonies, and we don't go too much into the details. And in any case, in Kali Yuga, pronouncing the mantras itself is a difficult thing to do. And talking about Kali Yuga, there is a decline of Brahmanas that happens in the Kali Yuga. And it starts with Shringi, who cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die within 7 days. And so quickly, Parikshit Maharaj, who was the emperor of the world, he was out hunting, and he used to go and roam in his kingdom. And he was very thirsty, and so he entered a hermitage, and he found a rishi there, and rishi was in meditation, so he was in trance, so he didn't see the king coming, so he didn't offer him any respect, and he didn't offer him any water or place to sit and things like that. So king was pretty perplexed with hunger and thirst and things like that. So there was a dead snake, so he puts the dead snake on the body of the sage, and then he goes away. Now his son, who is small, and this is the beginning of Kali Yuga, and the son, Brahmanical power was very strong. I mean, there is something about Brahmanas. Even if they are so-called priestly Brahmanas, they can give curse, and they can bring people back to life. So there's a lot that is involved in being a Brahman and being powerful that you are. So his son was a very small boy, so he saw that happening and he felt hurt, and he was with his friends, and through his mystic powers, he could see that, that happened. So he goes, and in order to impress his friends, he says that I curse that he will die within 7 days from the bite of a snake bird, like that. And because he had, and when the rishi comes to know about it, he actually scolds his son. He said, you shouldn't have done that, actually, because he's such a nice king, and it is okay, for a person to feel like that when he's thirsty. But later on, we also know that it was against the nature of Prithu Maharaj. He was such a powerful king that for him to get perplexed because he was thirsty is not a very natural thing. All this was actually the scheme of Krishna, so that Srimad Bhagavatam could be spoken for the benefit of all of us. So, so Prabhupada then explains in the Bhagavatam that from this Shringi cursing for the wrong reason is where the decline of the Brahmanas actually starts there in Kali Yuga. So we have a body, we have a body, we are covered by the modes of material nature. We like to rise to the level of a Vaishnava. We heard the Vaishnava is the best. We also know about Brahmanas. We also know Brahmanas are declining in Kali Yuga. So what are we supposed to do? What should my mood actually be in Kali Yuga? So occurs naham vipro nacha narapatir napi vaishyo na sutro naham varni nacha grihapatir no vanastho yatirva kintu prodya nikhila parmananda purnam pratarbhipter gopi bhartur padakam das dasanudasa. So the key words here are loudly. Come on. More loudly. Dasa, right? So that's what we should be. And I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya or a Shudra, nor am I a Brahmachari, a householder, a Vanaprastha or a sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servants of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the maintainers of the gopis, Gopa Bhartur. He's like the ocean of nectar and he's the cause of universal transcendentalist bliss. He's always existing with brilliance, right? So if that is the mood, and what Prabhupada says is that here you want to be the dasanudas. You want to be the servant of a servant of a servant of a devotee, million times removed, right? And the reason is that, if you serve a devotee, if you serve a devotee, then good things are going to happen. It doesn't matter whether Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha, right? Abhira Shumbha Yamana Kasadaya Ye Necha Papa Pashraya Shraya Shudvanti Tasme Prabha Vishvane Vishnave Namaha, right? So all these castes of people, Hunas, the Germans, Andhras, Pulindas, the Greeks, the Mongolians, Yavanas, the Malechas, the Greek, the Turkish, everybody, even if they are doing up ashraya, they are doing sinful activities, but then they get purified if they take the shelter of the devotees of the Lord. So that's why that is how we should be. So on that note, I will close this and open up for any few reflections. We have a couple of minutes. Any reflections, anything that you're taking away from this class? Yeah, please.
One of the verses where from Bhagavad Gita you mentioned where whatever guna you are in, you should stay and do service. But here we are changing the guna. So how would you say if I have to elevate myself, then I have to be Vaishnava. So how do you justify that this is okay and what Krishna is saying it's not okay?
So what Krishna is saying is that if you're not doing anything, right, and your guna is that you want to kill, you enjoy killing, you like the sound of the vision of blood, and you are born as a butcher, right? So he's saying that you continue to be a butcher because that's what your guna is, right? But what we are saying that you can rise yourself. But the thing is, these modes have to do with the modes of material nature. So as long as you allow the modes of the material nature to infect you, right? And you're infected, you're staying in that mode, then do this. I'm saying that if you have the modes of a Brahmin, be a Brahmin. Don't try to join a job, right, and fail at it. Or don't try to rule a country if you're a Brahmin. Do what the Brahmins are supposed to do. And to that extent, we are saying Shukracharya is acting as some sort of a Brahmin. That's fine. He's not finding God. Just do that. You will be purified. That process itself is purificatory, right? And what we are saying over here is that now that we come over here, everybody is a Shudra. Number one, because the moment that you're born, where is the patanti, where is the time to read, right? Where is the ritualistic ceremony? For me, no ritualistic ceremony was performed. I didn't even get a name. Nobody did anything. My brother, I was born by the way, in a Brahmin family. My brother never got a Yagopavid done. Nothing. We just didn't do it. We were first class Brahmins of the Kali Yugas. So we didn't do that. And so nobody's following any rituals. Nobody's doing anything. There's so much of mixture in this Kali Yuga that because of the decline of Brahmanas. So Brahmanas declined because of Shringi. Brahmanas have declined, so people don't give money to them. People don't give money to them. It's a cyclical thing. How will they read, right? And so there's nobody to advise because Brahmanas declined, there's nobody to advise the Kshatriyas. So there's a hodgepodge. Now everybody does everything, right? And then, I at least remember that when I joined the computer industry, there was still a little bit of a respect to your intelligence and to your brain, that you would, there would be other people who would assist you in doing some of the menial tasks. For example, even if I did some programming, there was somebody who would punch it for me. I never learned how to type. I still type with 2 fingers. So there was a respect. But when I came here, I was very surprised that people kind of pride in saying that I do my own thing. So when I first joined a company in America, my manager actually went and said, "Oh, you want some coffee?" I said, "Yes." Those days I used to drink coffee, and he said, "I said yes," and he said, "Okay, let's go." And let me take you to the coffee machine. And he went to the coffee machine, and the coffee was some coffee was left there in the coffee machine, in the jar. And it was a Monday, so somebody must have drunk coffee on a Friday, and the coffee was bad. So I saw that he took it out, he was washing, he took some soap, he was washing and everything, and I was just thinking, my manager, he's washing the dishes for me? Is this what America is? So there's a complete hodgepodge and things like that, right? Even if you perform a ritual, there's nobody to perform then and recite the rituals properly, the verses properly. So that's why in this, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nameva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatirada. That itself will raise you, because there's no difference between Krishna and his name. So when you're chanting the names of the Lord, you will go that way. But so transcendence is what we are supposed to reach, right? That's what our aim is. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So if you want to actually find Krishna, that's in the Kali Yuga. Otherwise, in other yugas, people can just sit and meditate, right? And they'll find God like that. And in Satyuga and all that, people will be born, there will be proper, Garbandhan Sanskar will happen. The mother and the father will pray, they'll be in the right mood, then they will beget the child. The child will not be Shudra like that, But nowadays all of us are Shudras. At least, are born Shudras. And continue to be Shudras for a very long time. Like that. Does that help you? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good. No, I think I'll
Anybody likes to add to what I said? You want to add? Okay, Abhijit.
I just wanted to add some trivia, if you may call, from Mahabharata.
Oh, sure. I love Mahabharata stories. Please.
Some of the smallest altars, the sizes of the smallest altars, the yagya used to be performed were like 750 feet on one side. And the yagya that was performed before Mahabharata war started ran into some miles.
Wow.
So they are not the yagya altar what we do these days. So you can imagine, it was a science, as you said, it was a science.
It's a science, yeah.
And there was something going on. If you have altars like that, naturally there will be rain, because there will be so much of, going up. There will be rain, basically.
Yeah. And nowadays when we want to have rain, I still remember when we were going through the drought period here in California, we used to perform Harinam even more dexterously and arduously, and we did get some rain. So Harinam gets the rain for you. Yeah. Anything else? The Artik has to start. We are a little bit over 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thoroughly enjoyed your class, and also many concepts got clear, like started with Brahma, Brahman, and Vipra, and Priest, and also it was really very it's nice class to also understand what is the vocabulary of what we use, and so that also enhances our when we read Prabhupada's book, so it helps to understand all these things. Thank you.
Yeah. Prabhupada's purports are amazing. Amazing. That's what makes the Srimad Bhagavatam so big in size. Somebody was asking me, can I have a short Bhagavatam? I was out distributing books the other day, and he said, but I want to read the Vedas. And I was like, do you know how big the Vedas are? How long it's going to take? He was an engineer, so I gave him the math of reading the Bhagavatam, 1 verse a day. It's going to take you 53 years. Rig Veda has got lakhs of verses. Do you know how long it's going to take you? And things like that. He was hell-bent on, I want to I just want to read the Vedas, and so I was showing him the Bhagavatam. I said, here are the purports, and I said, you can imagine that if we now add the purports to the Vedas as well, how big it's going to become. You won't even be able to keep the Vedas in your home. It'll be so big in size, and so. Yeah, Prabhupada's purports are amazing. And if you read them scrutinizingly, every word that he uses, like priestly Brahman, wow, first time I read it, I just went through it like, oh, priestly Brahman, fine, But he's making distinctions between one type of Brahman and another type of Brahman, yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I just agree with what Mukhanand Prabhuji said. So many nice points. One point I really liked is when he mentioned in material world, when we are thinking of our own results, we are called misers, but then for Krishna, when we are constantly thinking of results, how it's purified.
Yes.
So thinking on the same line, like December marathon, we are thinking of scores.
Exactly. There's so I used to do a lot of corporate book distribution, and I still do that. And so I used to work in a corporation, and I used to go and preach for the 9 months of the year. I used to preach about Krishna consciousness, and for the last 3 months, I would be doing fundraising and distributing books and things like that. So somebody used to say that, that she just gets transformed. Last 3 months of the year, all she talks is Lakshmi. And then, but he said, but then he also said, to my credit, he said that, but the first 6 of the month, she will not talk Lakshmi at all. She will just talk Krishna. So, and I was saying, yeah, but in both the cases, I'm serving Krishna. So, yeah, good point there. So, I think I should stop now because the Aarti has stopped. So thank you so much for joining the class, and thank you everybody who's online. Let's give a big Haribol to the devotees online as well as devotees in the class. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.